So the Fed says that the economy is doing so well that they may actually have to double their projections for GDP growth. They forgot to add psych at the end. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am McAlphanim. I have so much fun with the Fed because they're so delusional. They are. So it makes the content that much more rich. So let me get this straight. The economy is doing great, but you have Wells Fargo and all the other banks closing down branches. And no, it's not because they want to change their business models, because we covered some articles before where their customers are literally begging some of these banks to keep a physical branch in their towns. But the banks are saying, oh, no. And I can also back that up because the banks have been borrowing at record amounts from that federal emergency fund that they generated and just concocted out of nowhere. When the banks like SVB, Silvergate Bank, all of those banks in the spring went down, they came up with that fund. It's pretty much a bailout fund. Well, what people don't know, and I've been covering this for a few months now, is some of my other content. What they don't know is the banks have continuously been borrowing from that. That's right. The banks are completely propped up. But no, the economy's doing well. So not only that, but you have a tsunami of bankruptcies happening. I'm talking about everybody's declaring bankruptcy from, Bed Bath & Beyond, Party City. You're not going to be able to party anymore. If you party via Party City products, they're in some trouble. Just a tsunami of bankruptcies happening, but nope, everything's good. Massive amount of layoffs. People are getting laid off left and right. But no, everything's okay. No, don't worry about it. Everything is fine. Automotive industry about to get hit because they can't source certain materials and necessities. Nope, everything is okay. Don't worry about it. That's how the Fed looks at it. So if the Fed said it, it must be correct. Let's read this little article here, just a little tidbit from economictimes.indiatimes.com. And it says here, the U.S. economy has been looking so solid. Lately, the Federal Reserve officials will probably need to double their projection for growth in 2023 when they publish an updated outlook after this month. The data is so manipulated at this point. It's unbelievable. It's just my humble opinion. You don't have to agree with it. It says here, following a string of stronger than expected reports on everything from consumer spending, you can't be serious. There is absolutely no way that I get certain reports and the Fed does not. Consumer spending? You mean how most people in this country, which, like, let's make this clear, going by the charts, they have very little savings. Their savings accounts are running dry. Their checking accounts running dry. This is what the data says. And so both people and entities have been running around spending at record amounts with their credit cards. Do you consider that healthy spending? That's what you're going by? Because they're not buying with anything else. They're buying mostly on credit. Usage of credit is at an all-time high. So for me to hear consumer spending is a laughable joke. But let's keep going on here because this is what the Fed does. The Fed is just a regular comedian at this point. Okay, let's go. It says here, consumer spending to residential investment. Economists have, hit my light over. Economists have been boosting their forecast for gross domestic product. One widely followed unofficial estimate produced by the Atlanta Fed even has it expanding 5.6% on an annualized basis in the third quarter. Where's all this? This is insane. That marks a sharp turnaround from 3 months ago. Last time policymakers updated their own numbers when the consensus view was that the economy would stall in the current quarter. Where's all the lending? I'm not understanding. Where's all the lending coming from with tightened lending standards and restrictions because of the banks? Even Janet Yellen said we're going to tighten up lending, which means what? Let's connect it all together. So if the banks are tightening lending, and then where are the businesses? Which small business? That's a problem. It's going to be a continued problem. Small businesses. And that's not taking into account the technologies that they're using that have been failing them, like the whole Square shut down the other day where they couldn't even take payments. So a lot of the different small businesses, but let's put that to the side. But if they can't get the proper funding, they can't get the proper loans, then how are they going to be replenishing their shelves with the products that they need. Not only that, let's put that to the side for one moment. That's one caveat. If the oil prices are going to continue to be increasing, and we all know that as oil goes up, and they're projecting $107 a barrel, the pros, the experts, right? If it's going that high, and it's already pretty high right now, but if it's going to go that high, then obviously that affects the cost of transportation and getting your goods back and forth. It affects the price of the goods outright at some point. Then what does that do for the economy? So then if you're going to have these future projections, would you not take that into account? Am I going insane, folks? Let me know. Is this making any sense? Maybe am I looking at things a little bit wrong? I don't know. I don't think that I am. So everything has to go up. And once again, this is why I always get on the Fed and OPEC's back, right? OPEC is cutting. They're going to be cutting production of oil for the foreseeable future. There's no reason for them to change that. No reason for that. If they don't cut a little bit more, those prices are going to go up a little bit more. Okay. And I don't see any way they can negotiate that down. So how do you say that there's going to be just this bounteous and this great economy? I just don't see how that is feasible. Well, let's see here. It says, quote, consumer spending was robust. Oh, my word. Like I said, this is nuts. The people are dead broke, most of them, and they're using credit cards. You can look that up. So why is this a factor? Consumer spending was robust in June and July. So the third quarter is virtually baked in the cake at this point, unquote. That's very deceptive. They're not taking certain data into account. But let's move on to another article here, because I could talk all day about that. I really could. Oh, man. De-dollarization, the dumping of dollars. Now someone else is doing it. This article here is from news.bitcoin.com. We have to keep our eye on this dollar that affects so many things in our lives. This article is titled, Indonesia expands de-dollarization efforts with national task force formation. Whoa. Holy smokes. Let's go down here and see what's going on. It says Bank Indonesia. The Indonesian Central Bank announced on Tuesday that it has, quote, formed a national task force to expand the use of local currency transactions. Didn't I tell the people this? I said that was the focus. I've been talking about that for a year and a half. Everyone's focused on the one common BRICS currency, when that's not right now what is at the crux of what BRICS nations are trying to do. Well, pretty much any nation that's not deeply embedded in hand with the West, right? They're concentrating on local currencies, but let's continue on here. It says in Indonesia with partner countries, unquote. So if everyone just is a large portion of the world is just stopping the usage of dollars, what does that do to the U.S. economy? When all those dollars come back home, they've been dollar dumping for quite some time. It says here the Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, concerning the National LCT Task Force was signed on the sidelines of this year's Asian Summit in Jakarta on Tuesday. It says besides the central bank, the coordinating Ministry for Economic Affairs, coordinating Ministry for Maritime Affairs and Investment, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Industry, Ministry of Trade. Holy smokes, they're all on one accord. Ministry of State-Owned Enterprises, Financial Services Authority, OJK, and Indonesia Deposit Insurance Corporation also participate in the LCT project. Whoa, that's a lot. And here's the thing. It's not just them. There's so many countries doing this. What do they say? They have 21 more countries trying to join BRICS as well. It's just something you need to keep your eye on if you value your value and you want to protect your value. Most people aren't sitting on a ton of gold, although some of us are pretty heavy in gold and silver to protect our value. But those who are still transacting heavily in dollars need to know how much dollars are going to be diminished and how much inflation is going to possibly be coming in the future that could be affected by all of these things: raising oil prices, dollar dumping, the banks having myriad of problems. A lot of them are probably going to collapse again as I don't think the Fed can continue to bail them out. Like I said, they've been consistently using that bailout fund. They're consistently asking the Fed for money. Healthy banks don't have to do that, folks. I'm just going to tell you that right now. All right. So, so all of that affects the value of the dollar and how it can be used and how many things you can buy, how you can live, the prices of all of these different things. So we keep our eye on that stuff here. Let's move on from there. We know they want to take down the dollar. All right. So this article here is from rigzone.com. We must keep our eye. You see that? You see that, peeper? We have to keep our eye on that oil. We must put our peepers on that oil. It says here, this article is titled, Oil Market is Bewildered. Bewildered. It says that the oil market is bewildered. That's what Bajan Shildrop, the chief commodity analyst at SEB, outlined in a report sent to RigZone on Thursday, adding that it cannot quite figure out whether the latest extension of Saudi Arabia's unilateral cut to the end of the year is a reflection of weakness to come. In an effort to preemptively trying to avoid the oil price from falling below $85 per barrel amid coming weakness. Well, I'll tell you what is working. I'm telling you what's working. Look, and what people are not taking into account, they keep discussing what OPEC plus countries are doing. They're not talking about cutting the pipelines in the United States. You have to take that into account. That has an effect. Hey, if you don't want to look at that, you're going to be blindsided by that data, right? But let's continue on here. It says $85 a barrel amid coming weakness or an effort to drive the oil price to, here goes that number again, $100 to $110 per barrel by the end of the year. You think that can't happen with everything that's going on right now? Holy smokes. I don't know what to tell you. It says, quote, if the IEA's latest calculations for global demand in Q3 and Q4 are correct and Saudi sticks to its cuts, then global inventories will indeed decline by 250 million barrels by year end, and Brent crude will rally to $100, $110 to $110 per barrel, and Saudi Arabia will get a lot of the blame, unquote, Shildrop said in the report. I don't think they care. I don't think they're concerned right now. Have you seen the different actions that they're taking, not only with the oil, but also agreeing to transact heavily in other currencies as well? They haven't completely dollar dumped just yet, but they have set a new precedent by saying, hey, we also will transact in other currencies with these particular countries. So I'm not sure that they're so concerned about that as of right now. Not only that, but the people on the ground will feel the pain more than Saudi Arabia. Listen, the people are going to blame more, blame who's closer to them more so. So I would say that the rulers in the United States are going to feel the pain more than Saudi Arabia will. Who's going to really put the fire to Saudi Arabia? You think that the government of the United States can just call them and play that same game that they always did in the past when you've seen them shirk and kind of turn their backs to the government of the United States and pretty much have this energy of, we don't really care what you have to say anymore. We have lost respect for you. So I don't think they're concerned. It says, quote, the latest action from Saudi Arabia, if it drives the oil price to $100 per barrel or higher, must indeed lead to political heat from the U.S., unquote, he added. Once again, this can't be said by anyone who's been watching the political theatrics between Saudi Arabia and the United States. Didn't they call Saudi Arabia sometime, was it this year or last year? I can't remember. You guys let me know. And they tried to give them a wag of the finger and a tongue lashing, and Saudi Arabia is like, who do you think you are? Right? And I don't know if these articles were correct, but did they ignore a couple of phone calls? I'm not sure about that. I know you might say, well, that's not professional. Listen, these individuals are ready for a change, it seems, and professionalism sometimes have to go out the window. And it just seems that I don't think the United States has the sway over Saudi Arabia that they used to. They're heavily involved with BRICS nations. That doesn't tell you a lot. So now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, folks, let's get to the money.